Hey everybody. So yesterday I got it to where you could add things into here. I mean, you could modify, add, and or modify lights and stuff in here. And now today I added this filtering up here, and it gives you the ability to filter by name. Um, just kind of like just the justification. Well, first of all, did want to address so this and this is probably going to be an issue for a lot of designers and other folks like that. You know, they don't like the fact that these sizes are different, and generally their first instinct is to try to get you to make this shorter so that it aligns with that. And they may even want to make these guys shorter too. I would push back on that if you can. You probably can't, but if you can, it's always worth the fight because what happens is like so when you click on this little filter goes up, and then there's like could be help text, like the Angular material folks have kind of they've made this as small as possible, and they made it work for mobile devices, and they made it work for all their little different indicators and things like that, and so that icons can fit in there properly and all that. And the minute you start monkeying around with that stuff, it's just a mess. So if you can push back on something like that, if you have enough juice in your organization to put up that fight, but I will tell you, it is a never-ending fight. Like you will see that, and you're better off making these taller. But every time, if they do want them to be all the same, but every time that will happen, like you might have your manager and you can convince them, and then you might have and the product person, but then the director sees it and is like, hey, can we tighten this up, let's make it smaller, and then they don't really aren't really well suited to explain what the specific problems with that are. So then you have to fight that battle again, and then the minute it gets up to VP, by the time it's up there, they're just like, hey, this one rebellious developer is pushing back on our desire to make this website look nice. They just don't get it. Um, but it is, I mean, it is the impossible dream to fight that fight, but it is going to be worth it if you can win it. Anyways, so the reason for this is so I have a light that's sitting in the middle, and then I have a red one, a blue one that's sitting over the top of the blue, and a red one that's sitting over the top of the red. You can tell by the X and Y positions, and then I have a blue one that's sitting in front of the blue, and the blue one that's sitting in front of the red. And so what's nice about this is that I could say, oh, okay, I just want to mess with the things that are in the front. So now all I have are front ones to deal with. So now I can see, okay, I can update this. Okay, so that's what that looks like. Okay, let me go ahead and update that so that they're consistent. See, it's nice to be able to um, uh, just see the ones that matter to whatever you're trying to do. So like now, let's say, so that was the front ones, right? So it's a little softer. It looks nice. So let's say, well, the top ones are a little overbearing. So let's go ahead and do a top, and let's make that one too. And you can really see that on the blue. So let's go ahead and do the red one. Anyways, I think that makes it a lot easier um, to sort of make sense of things when you're trying to edit these things. So, anyways, I added this filter, and the first thing I did when I added the filter was I executed this command, nggc toolbox common, and I wanted to make a common table filter. And that's because in the mesh world, I tend to redo this one so that it's like the lights, and I want the filters to look consistent, or at least have a good chance of making them look consistent. So if I decide to make a change for one of them, that change happens for both. That is a dream that we all have, and often isn't quite as simple as it sounds, but this goes a long ways towards trying to keep consistency. Um, so the filters HTML is super simple. All it is a form field, and all it does is emit the event, the natural key up event, to a function called a method called emit filter. And I don't believe, yeah, there's no CSS. And then that's a unit test. Then in here, basically all we have is our emit filter, which takes a keyboard event, and then we have to strongly cast this into a HTML input element, because not all things that emit keyboard events have values. So this will let you have access to the value, and then whenever there's a value change, we emit it. We emit this event from this custom event that we created called the filter value event, and all that does is emit a string. So whatever string is in there, it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. So let's go into here. So we added this. I added this line here, and update filter is tied to. I mean, the filter value event is tied to the update filter, and I'm just going to deal with that. I'll circle back and deal with this filtered lights list here in a second. Don't think we did. Oh, okay. The filter. So this, for some reason, this guy wanted to go down here. So I had to make it an inline block and give it a little margin in the CSS. So now let's go to the event, and then I'll circle back and take care of the filter, or talk about the filtered light. So we get an update filtered, and we actually console log the filter value. I remember doing that. Let me do this. I'm going to remove that console log later, but I'm going to pull this in here, make this small. So you can see we already have some, but yeah, so basically it just puts out whatever is the text that's in there. So so that's, pretty basic, pretty simple. And then we have this filtered light list, and that's a new method. I mean, that's a new list that I added. And basically, the filters light list basically takes the full light list and filters it. And so all we have is filters light list. So if we go back to the markup, you'll see that I changed this from light list to filtered light list. And I always, like, one of my anti-patterns that I always think of first is when you're filtering to use CSS to hide, like add the classes so that you can hide things. And that always ends up badly. I'm pretty sure I go down that mark because that's how we hide and show these guys. But that's always a bad move, because you generally, quite often, will have paging, and all the paging gets really difficult to manage if you're using CSS as opposed to just removing it from the list. So typically, and this is how I've seen it done everywhere, you create a brand new sort of object or array, and generally I put the word filtered in front of it in the same name as that, so it's easy to remember. And these are super light. Like, sometimes people will be like, you're using all this extra memory because you have a duplicate list. No, you don't have a duplicate list. It's the same light objects inside of there. You just have one pointer that is the data structure, but it doesn't have the it's like it's just a different suitcase with the same stuff in it. All you have is the cost of an array, not it's not a duplicate of the whole list. And that is like an argument that I have to have over and over and over again in most places. But anyways, so when the data comes in, if there's a light list, if there is no filter value, then the filter light list is just the same as the light list. But if it exists, then it filters it. Basically the same is down here. That is a little bit of duplicate code. We might want to, if the logic in here starts to get beyond just saying, hey, if it's in there, then it would make a lot of sense to pull this out, say update based on filter or something like that. It's no big deal, but right now, I mean, there's just hardly any code that we're duplicating here. So that's about it. Happy coding. Bye.